stand still for one more day with you.
Thank you, Tim. Jenna's life was filled with meaningful relationships, kindness, and service to others. We will now hear words of remembrance from those who knew and loved her best. Please welcome Jalen Chapman.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jalen Chapman, and I would have been one of Jenna's bridesmaids. When her father, Robin, asked me to speak today, I was so unbelievably honored, but I'll admit I was a little nervous. Honestly, though, I could stand up here and talk about that girl for hours, which I'm sure she would absolutely love. But I fear we would all start to get a little antsy if I did that, so I guess I'll just give you the highlights. I don't remember the first time I met Jenna. She was always just there. From what our mothers tell me, there were a few playdates before we started school, but we've always just seemed to be best friends. The oldest picture I could find of us was from the first day of kindergarten, sitting side by side on the alphabet carpet. Naturally, I was sitting on the J, but we would eventually learn to share. Another thing we learned to share was our love of music. In choir, we always knew that both of us would be sharing solos. It was just a matter of who would be singing which part. In the 4th grade, every morning before class, we would all stand together to sing O Canada. And without even speaking, her and I would unanimously decide if the middle verse would be sung in English or French that day, expecting the whole class to just follow along. She was such a beautiful singer. At almost every gathering, you could place your bets on her pulling out her guitar and singing something, usually accompanied by her siblings or her family. Talent runs in the family, I guess. The summer before 6th grade, my family packed up and moved to Nova Scotia. I was heartbroken to be leaving all my friends behind. And like you'd expect, over the years, I slowly lost touch with many of them. But not Jenna. She simply refused to let that happen. Distance didn't mean much to her. She wasn't the kind of person to let a few miles come between her and someone she loved. If you mattered to Jenna, she made the effort. Every single time. It helped that our little sisters were the same age and also best friends. It made sleepovers pretty easy for our parents. They'd simply trade children for the night. We made countless trips back and forth across the strait. I still laugh thinking about the first time in middle school when Jenna was allowed to walk on the ferry and cross all by herself. And I got a very panicked phone call about how loud the transfer trucks were, how there were so many cars moving everywhere, and she had absolutely no idea what to do or where she was supposed to go. But being Jenna, she was brave, and she eventually figured it out. During those visits, it never mattered what we were doing, as long as we were doing it together. Sometimes we'd spend the whole weekend at her house doing absolutely nothing. Others, she would drag me to hockey games or parties. She even took me to class with her a few times. And somehow, whenever she came to Nova Scotia, I swear she was better friends with some of my friends than I was. She would call me up to talk about things that had happened in their lives that I hadn't even heard of yet. And I saw them at school every day. But that was just Jenna. She didn't just make friends everywhere she went. She genuinely cared about people. She remembered the little things. She would remember your exam, your new job, your dog's name, the story you told her 6 months ago in passing. She made people feel important because to her, they were. When COVID happened, I wasn't able to attend my own prom. There were simply too many students in my graduating class. Jenna, however, decided that was unacceptable. She pestered one of her poor classmates until he finally agreed to invite me to their prom instead. Surrey, thankfully, was just small enough to fit within the gathering restrictions. Without her, I never would have gotten to experience one of those milestones that so many of us dream of, growing up. But that's who she was. She saw something that mattered to someone else, and she damn well made it happen. After high school, we stayed close, but life did what life does. We got busy. We'd see each other every now and then, talk here and there, but we weren't woven into each other's everyday lives as we once were. Then about 1.5 years ago, my grandfather passed. Jenna was the very first person to reach out. And just like that, we picked up right where we had left off. It was as if no time had passed at all. Because with Jenna, the years between conversations never seemed to matter. The very next day, she took me to the farmer's market. We wandered around the shops and ended the night at her house, drinking wine and making fun of terrible movies, just talking for hours. No doubt driving her then-boyfriend, Morgan, crazy, poor Morgan, because he had just spent a full day working and probably just wanted to fall asleep on the couch with his dog Lola. That was actually my first time meeting Morgan. I would later learn that his mother was actually one of my mother's bridesmaids. They too had grown distant, but through Jenna, they were reconnected, and now they're as close as they were before. Even without meaning to, Jenna was bringing people closer together. When my grandmother passed away in the fall, she showed up to the wake in her work uniform, burst through the doors, gave me a quick hug, and apologized for being such a brat and skipping the line, because her and her partner had gotten a call for help, and she had to leave to answer. She didn't even really know my grandmother, but still, she came. Robin and Mary, I honestly don't know how you did it, but whatever you did with that girl, you should probably write a book, because I still cannot understand how one person can be so busy and yet somehow always show up exactly when she was needed. How could she love so deeply without ever making it seem like an effort? Not loud for the sake of being loud, not outgoing because she wanted attention. She simply loved. Loved so loud you would be a fool not to feel it. She had the brightest smile I've ever seen, not just because it was beautiful, and it was, but because it was genuine. It lit up every room she walked into. She could walk into a room full of strangers, and by the end of the night, she'd have everyone laughing together and inviting them all to her wedding dance. True story. She came to my birthday party a few weeks ago, and by the end of the night, invited a room full of my school colleagues, who she barely knew, to her wedding dance. In less than 3 hours, they were absolutely in love with her. She had this incredible gift of making every person she was with feel like they were exactly where they belonged. She never let any awkwardness exist. If the room got quiet, she'd fill it. If someone looked uncomfortable, she'd pull them into a conversation. She collected people everywhere she went, not because she was trying to, but because people naturally wanted to be around someone who made them feel so valued. And the remarkable part wasn't that she had so many friends. It was that every single one of them genuinely felt like her friend. Because she remembered them. She checked in. She celebrated their victories, carried their struggles. She made time. She loved people with her whole heart. Honestly, I don't know if there will ever be enough words to explain just how extraordinary she was. But sometimes words are not needed. All you need to do is take a look around this room. Look at how many people are here today. Look at how many lives she's touched. The people watching online. This doesn't just happen by accident. This happens because one extraordinary woman spent her life loving. And I think that's how she'd want to be remembered. Not for the tragedy that took her from us, or from the life that she could have had, but for the lifetime spent loving people so much that they couldn't help but love her right back. I'm going to be sad for a long time. I'm going to miss her forever. But I'm always going to be grateful that through some small miracle, we were in the same class so many years ago, and that I could be so lucky to have had her in my life. Thank you, Jenna, for the lifetime of friendship. Thank you for showing us what it looks like to love without limits. The world is quieter without you in it, but it is infinitely better because you were here. Thank you.